a far cry from the flashing cameras and manicured tracks of the official races Mikira longed for. She hated being down here, but it was the only safe place to run such makeshift contests. With how tightly controlled magic was, enchanted races required a permit and a hefty tax to the city of Veradell. Genest was risking prison by operating without one, and by competing in them, so was Mikira. 20 silver marks to the winner. First rider around the loop and back here wins the purse. Genest jingled a small pouch above her head, the real reason Mikira was here. Take your marks, get ready, race! The horses bolted. Iri easily beat half into the first turn, their enchantments either not for speed or too weak to bestow any real advantage. Mikira forgot everything but the feel of the race as they barreled along the tunnel. Her body moved with Iri's like a reflection, adrenaline rushing through her in a heady thrum, sharpening everything into stark focus. As they leaned into the second turn, a rider wearing a green and brown half-mask, imitating the harbinger Rark, approached them. Something glinted, and Mikira barely dodged their blade. Freeing one of her own knives from her hip, she blocked the second swipe, then disarmed the rider with a twist of her wrist. They rode well, their horses' physical enchantments clearly stronger than the others. But it wasn't enough. Not against an enchant bred from the Rusel lines. Not against Mikira, whose father had once led Veradell's racing elite. Taking the final turn, they entered the straightaway where the race had begun, and Mikira let Iri go. The horse's speed all but doubled as he careened down the last stretch and across the finish line. A knot released in her chest at the crowd's cheer as Iri trotted back toward Genest. The woman seized Mikira's pale hand, holding it up in triumph. "Nightflyer wins again," she called to the whistles and shouts of the crowd. I know, you're all shocked. Don't you worry. I promise I'll find our little flyer a worthy competitor soon." Mikira grinned at the applause. These people loved her, and she couldn't deny that even without the need for money, she would compete just for the way they looked at her, like she could do anything. Feeling a different kind of stare on the back of her neck, Mikira turned, catching the gaze of the Rark rider. She was tall, with curious hazel eyes and tawny skin. Mikira could turn her in for the knife, but that wasn't the first time someone had pulled a weapon on her, and it wouldn't be the last. The rider crooked the smallest of smiles before guiding her horse into the dispersing crowd. Everyone would leave through the myriad of tunnel entrances, careful not to raise suspicion. The Anther didn't bat an eye when a noble house squeezed every last copper mark from one of their tenants or conscripted them into the eternal war in neighbouring Solaire. But if the city guard came across an enchant racing ring without the requisite paperwork and taxes, everyone involved would spend the rest of their lives in prison. Her brother used to say that you could murder someone in broad daylight in Veradell so long as you had the proper paperwork. Unless you came from a noble house. Then you didn't even need that. Genest held out the winning purse. "You know, one of these days, I'd like to meet the person behind the mask," she said. "Grab a drink or two." Guilt panged through Mikira. She liked Genest. Her upbeat, teasing attitude reminded her of her childhood friend, Taliana, who she hadn't seen in years. But she was here for coin, not friendship, and no one could know who she was. "Thanks for the race." She took the purse and tucked it into her pocket, pointing Iri toward one of the exits. Small engraved arrows marked the way out for those who knew where to look for them, remnants from when the tunnels were used to transport gemstones. After most of the city's mines dried up, the tunnels were forgotten. Now the walls had become a mural of one-way messages, from peeling recruitment posters for the Eternal War to notes chalked onto the stone. Most were from Solaren refugees flooding in from the war being fought over their land, hoping lost friends and family would pass the same way. But others were last words left by Endelish fleeing the kingdom's military draft, both driven by the war to exchange places in the tunnel's darkness. Her brother had never gotten the chance to